parenthood, and that particular cue by Fred Ndimule on that particular editorial comment saying family is everything. But this particular morning we take a look at what does it really mean when you talk about a whole family kind of setup. So last year during the 59th Madaraka Day celebrations, former President Uhuru Kenyatta said that basically talking about the crisis that is really happening in the country for the past 10 years, since last year, since 2009 up to 2019. He was quoting this particular figure saying 25%, that is in 2009, rose to about 38% in 2019, according to the census. So this particular morning, just taking a look at the whole single parenthood and how these particular families are really rising up. And Flora, we do have the right minds for this particular conversation.
Absolutely. And even before we go to that, there was that Canadian research that stated 60% is the chances that one stands to be a single parent in Kenya. And that, of course, being exacerbated by the increasing cases of teenage pregnancies as well as early marriages. And definitely, who could be better to speak to this conversation other than the people we have here in studio, Benjamin Zulu there, life coach as well as a psychologist. It's good to have you, Benjamin.
Thank you.
Interesting shows you have there online. I've been looking forward to hosting you sometime.
Zulu, I'm curious, but do you meet people and they're like, Zulu, you inspire me. I watch you and they're like, maybe they'll input your tips.
Yeah, a lot. It happens a lot. It's very fulfilling. That's more fulfilling than the finance. We need the finance, but that touching of lives is more fulfilling.
All right.
Yep.
We'll get to hear the inspiration.
Because there's a specific show I watched from Zulu and I learned something, but you nitasema tukimaliza.
Can do it. And definitely, clinical psychologist Linda Kawira.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
First of all, that particular date, I'll start with you, Zulu, on this. That particular statement by the president, former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, talking about how, and just to quote him, this will destroy fundamental characters of Kenya. Do you agree with him?
Yes, not just the characters of Kenya, but psychologically, we were not meant to be raised by one parent. We were not meant to function that way. If you look culturally, historically, spiritually, all our origins were meant for two parents, from both genders, to guide us. Now, we are not, somebody may say, do you say I chose it? Yeah, did I call this on myself? We are describing the situation because we are also growing up and we have more people who want direction. So if you ask me, I'll say it is true. It alters the cell of society. The fundamental building block of society is the family. And when you have one parent, first of all, they will strain because they have to step in for the other one is not there. And they have to go hunt and still be there. They'll come on when they're exhausted and they're still needed at home. So it's a strain. And I agree to that extent that that's not how it's supposed to be.
Now for you, Kawira, the same question. Do you agree?
I do. Because now we are saying we are sexual revolutioning. And in this case, we're saying we can do it on our own. And we are not meant to do it individually. We are meant to do it as a pair. There is no way we can say, I can do it on my own. We are social beings. Interaction needs to be there, daily needs. And also our psychological needs validates that yearning to be socialized.
Right.
Yeah, so individually, it can't happen.
Right.
It's a struggle.
Flora, before we actually even continue, it's also even important to let our viewers remember that they can always chime in this particular conversation. Call in live. I'll be giving that particular number, but then you'll be seeing it at the bottom end of your screens. Call in live. You can always text us on our social media handles, number 2047. Flora.
As well as TV47 News on X, TV47 Kenya on Facebook. The hashtag is Morning Cafe. Send in your questions, send in your feedback concerning this topic. And Zulu, we are talking about 25.1% to 38.2%, the increase in the number of single parents. That is according to the 2019 census.
Yeah.
We are around 6 years shy of the 2029. So I wonder what the numbers will be like if really there's nothing being done since when the former president said about this. So how did we get here?
I think it's a combination of several things, and one of them is lack of healing. If you ask me from where I stand, we attempt relationships before we come home to ourselves. We get it wrong while we are looking for what we did not get. All right? You come up with the gaps of love and validation that you have no name for. You just feel an ache and a void. And the first time you're out of home, you try to get somebody to love you the way you wished you were loved. And when you try to get that person, you don't know how to read people because you have not learned life. You don't even know that void is a calling to fill it yourself. You get a person who extracts something from you while they're filling the void you're unconsciously aware of. They leave you a single parent. Many times single mothers are more common because they stay with the children. The man does not get pregnant. He can run away when you're pregnant and disappear by the time the child arrives. It's a biological advantage, really. That's why I take advantage of. But I know men who stay, and men die quietly. My brother will tell you, Stanley, that men just don't know how to scream, but they stay there and die because there's nobody to hear them. He say, I can't live. Many men would have left if it were not for the children. The woman is terrible. He has no home, really. He stays in the club to wait for the problem to sleep. He is going home because the children are there. He would not have gone home. So we're not saying it's only one gender, but we're saying we become single parent because we attempt love, sex, relationships while looking for healing in the wrong sources. We come up fragmented. In Africa, parents don't love children. They just police them, particularly fathers. And yet, fathers give us anchoring and belonging. Mothers give us emotional nurturing and connectedness. There's something exclusive dads give. When they're absent, you leave home wounded and having a gap.
But Zulu, I mean, at this age right now, some women and a number of single women are doing it by choice. As much as you'd say, all that, maybe not treating someone and all that. Lakini wengine watasema, you know what, I want to look for this man. I don't want a relationship with you. I just want maybe to have sex with you, have kids, but then no relationship. That's also, I just want to be a single mom on my own.
Yeah, that's also a very unconscious person. In fact, they are more wounded and in denial. You can't create a human being into a void to scratch your own itch to become a mother without carrying the void you're bringing me into. I'm also a human being. I'll just be a child for a few years and I'll become a person like you. What did you consciously decide to bring me into? Say, me, I don't want, what about the child? Did you ask the child whether they want a dad or just a mom? This child was created to function in a full society, full community, supported by both gender. Now in your egotistical megalomania, you said you are enough. I want to be everything. Just give me the child. I don't want anything to do with the dad. Then you tell the child, don't ask me about your dad. Go look for. You become angry, then you transfer to, if you want to be a single mom, adopt the kids. Go solve a problem. Don't create a problem. Get a kid who has no home. Now bring that one home. Now God is happy with you. The child is happy with you. Everybody is happy with you. Don't bring a child into a void. Because their mothers are telling them, if you can't get a man, just then get a child. Some of these mothers have been pushing their daughters to prove they're woman enough and to relieve the distress by being asked by their colleagues, what's happening with your daughter? She's not married. She's straight. They're feeling all this pressure. I'm saying there's no sober, balanced person who will transfer that burden to a child consciously. By the time they're doing it, they are also unwell, unhealed, fearful, avoidant, so afraid of being hurt. And they're projecting it, saying, I am making money, I can provide for the child. The child needs more than money. They need the two parents to show them how the life works.
Yeah, and it's interesting how we see children who have been raised by single parents, they come and transition now during the time of marriage or even dating. They think they just want a kid, or if I was raised by a single mom or a single dad, then I can do it alone. Do you think being raised by single parents actually affects these children to want to now bring up their children on their own?
Yeah, they do get affected because as Benjamin is saying, when you have unresolved traumas, it projects to the next being that you're going to create, if it's biologically because of the genes. But in most cases, there are traumas that pass by to kids and causes anxiety, depression, personality disorders, and also oppositional deficient disorders, which mostly it's the spoiled brats, the way people see it, but it's a mental issue. So it's not possible to raise a child alone.
But how often does that happen? In a setup like Kenya, in your experience, how often does that happen? When you talk about spoiled brats, there are two sides to this of this coin, in my opinion. you'd either have a spoiled brat or a tough person who was raised by one person, maybe the single mom or even the single dad, and they shaped them to be, tough in this particular way. Can that happen?
Tough.
Tough in a sense that, they take life in a different kind of way. They know that maybe whole silver lining doesn't just come atutapata too.
I'll say tough, and they're mentally stable. Because you can say he's going to be or she's going to be tough outside, but how is he or she handling stress as a normal person? Working, family, and also socializing with others. Because at the end of it, you're going to find they're going to have substance dependency and abuse. So they don't know how to handle a normal socializing because of the name tough. I'm tough. But how is it going to be as an individual at the end of it being your kawira at the end of it all, when I'm isolated from others? How is it? How am I coping with this being single-parented? There's a gap. Yeah.
Be interested to hear what Zulu has to say about these children who are brought up by single parents. Does it really have to influence what kind of family you have in future?
And I hope, thank you very much for that. And those who are parenting single, we are not predicting that you will fail.
Sure.
Many of them, they are the heroes who stood in when the other one checked out.
Yes.
Many times the one who's raising alone should be clapped for. They stayed, they sacrificed a lot of things to see the child. We saw the former president of the US, Barack Obama, coming to pay homage to a grave because the one who made him who he is was only one parent. Yes. The other guy took off and you go looking for him, just say, salute, that kind of thing. So if you're doing it alone, we celebrate you for staying, not running away, not leaving the children to become street children or criminals or anything. Sure. Congratulations for doing what you're doing. We are telling those who are coming not to think this is a bed of roses. We are describing the situation for those who think, it's also an option. It's particularly those who are brought by one parent. So when you're raised by one parent and they do a good job, you're grateful to them. You don't want to look like you're blaming them. Sometimes they influence you so much, you may want to copy all of their life, especially if they do not warn you about the painful parts of their life. Particularly good mothers, they tend to hide their life. You hear they have a boyfriend away, they don't bring home, they just leave their life. And you may think, this is it, mom is dad and mom is everything, pays fees, mom never collapses, mom is strong. So you may think the single parent is strong, but I encourage those parents to disclose the pain so the child does not copy-paste your life and they suffer in silence because you also kept quiet with your pain. Stanley will tell you the problem with the boys. They start challenging their mothers as early as 3 years. 3 years. The boy has an ego. Well, my friend woke up to hear the boy quarreling with the mother. He told me several times over the last 3 years he had to step in and assert authority because the boy is already attempting his ego to test power with the mom.
Is it because that there's no father figure in that house?
Luckily, he's there. And he said, one reason I don't live away when my children are close to hear nuances, because on my way, I'll not hear the argument, the quarrel. The mother may be so embroiled emotionally that she does not, because she does not answer the male when he is crossing over from expressing himself to being disrespectful, asserting his ego. So one challenge of raising a boy when there's no male authority, he can get away. His ego can get out of control and he becomes disorderly. And he was not inherently bad. There was just nobody to draw the boundary. And I'd ask single mothers who are raising alone and you're with a boy, always borrow the male authority in your bro or that teacher or that pastor or whoever. There should be somebody who can put that sense, because day by day you're in the house with the children and you don't know the language when they're trying to assert their ego. But that friend of ours was telling me the boy wanted more money to go contribute to a friend. A friend was having a birthday. So he wanted a bigger gift for the friend. He has been given this money, he's protesting. This is not enough, and he's not going to school. So he woke up and found the school bus has gone. The boy has not gone to the school bus because he's crying, protesting, add me more money. And he said, now you will go to school on foot. On foot. I just escorted the boy all the way. So the boy, they think to just board this bus, go to, you don't get to the house until I come back. So the boy waited for that to come back from 9 p.m. He never repeated that because there's a man to assert authority. I'm just saying, it's not ideal and it's a struggle, particularly when a soft woman who was meant to be feminine has to struggle with a male ego because the other man who born this one is not here.
Right.
That happens. Situations happen. We're not blaming the mother. We're saying congratulations for staying, but just recognize there's something that is not engineered to be handled by you here.
What kind of effect, even as she was asking, what kind of effect does it have later on? This boy, for example, in that particular scenario, reaches the age 30, yes. And all his life, he's been in a, raised by the single mom, raised by the mom alone. Maybe he's the only child. Might he be tempted to say, you know what, I can also do this alone? Yeah. I'll just, if I'm going to have a kid, either adopting or maybe have a kid, however he'll have that kid, and raise that kid alone.
Yeah, you can.
Can that really affect for both of you?
They usually do that because they are bitter with the dad who left. Men are usually quietly angry with the man who was absent, and that confuses them. If he healed, because you have not normalized therapy, psychological counseling, before we enter adult life, and that is what we need. If we are going to grow as people, let us stop this, just jumping. So it can influence, we call it influence by proximity. He saw it so much, it became normal. Even when it's not the happiest situation, it's what he knows. So he may be open to just getting a baby here, that guy, baby mama here. He may find that as if it's normal. And then the mother may not have also healed to correct that. Because when you raise single, when you are alone, and you have not overcome what was happening that time, you cannot correct it with your children. They will start doing it, and you can't tell them what's wrong with it because you did it. But when you heal, you can own up and say, I did not have enough consciousness to know what I was doing that time. And I hope you guys don't have to repeat that. This is the path. Go get both of you. It's meant to have two hands. To lift the family is too heavy. Don't attempt it alone. If she has healed, she can explain. But men usually, or girls even, copy-paste single-parent family by seeing it so up close. They think men are unnecessary. Or they marry you and they're just ambivalent about you because, anyway, dad was alone, so in case a woman is too, my dad did it, and all that. Because they don't know the full picture. Yes.
And how does then this affect these children mentally, mostly when it comes to relationship now?
Yeah, so codependency. I yearn for something that I didn't get. For male figures in our life, they are our encouragers. So for the mothers, they're more empathetic. So they're people who regulate our emotions. So for parents, for fathers, they're paternal. So they're there for validation and to help us. So in most times, you'll find they don't have personality that's aligned to our social norms. Yes. Most of them, they will have the deviant behaviors in the society. And it's not only about being boys or girls. It affects differently because of our hormonal imbalance. Yeah.
Great. And we're taking a short commercial break, but when we come back, I'll ask Zulu a very interesting question here. It's coming from what Kawira has just told us. So let's now take a short commercial break. We'll be back with more.
Did you know that Mount Kenya University is the most affordable university in Kenya, where you can attain your internationally recognized degree within 3 calendar years? Did you know that we have the highest number of campuses in Kenya, equipped with state-of-the-art facilities to develop you academically and socially? Join the most popular private university in Kenya and start your fulfilling higher education journey. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite.
whole comment on dependency, and right now we find young boys being in a relationship with old mamas, and then we see young girls being in a relationship with older people. Are these people now seeking people to validate them, and the other one, you go for mumama so that she gives you that motherly and emotional support?
Yeah, I think it's what I would call the disaster of ignorance. Selling short before you know what you're really selling. If they give you something wrapped in a black paper and they tell you that's yours, but go and wrap at home, you may think it's a block of ugali and you won't take it seriously, or you may think it's just a stone. This guy can't give me anything. But if you think whoever gave you could have given you gold, you treasure it. That's what young people are carrying, a block of potential, which they don't know what it is. So it's, if you get the sponsor culture, you're going for money. It's a transactional thing to be given. And many of them, we apologize. The situation is very bad. The parents are neglectful. There's no money. You are dumped in the university and forgotten. They're even asking you to send a part of your help money at home. So we are not minimizing your struggle. Some of these people are genuinely struggling and they are fixed. If either they accept the sponsor or they defer for a semester, sometimes the situations are that bad. Either they're struggling, they can't pay, they don't have enough food, they have to trek distances. I was there. I witnessed the struggle. And that's why we say, and sometimes the parent does not even know where university is. They come for graduation and you hold their hand to take them where the university is. Some of us educated ourselves in that sense. Is to say, we do not minimize your struggle. But whenever you sell your future just to be facilitated for the present, it's like you have a ladder, but because you are cold, you cut the ladder to warm yourself. You cut the ladder to, you needed to climb, but immediately you are cold. The pressure you are feeling as a young person for money is understandable. But the long term, you need the essence you are selling. The reason the old people are coming for you because you have energy and you are naive. You can't see that one day you'll be richer than them. You'll have better cars than them. You'll have better life than them. You think now they are ahead of you and they can't even make you rich. They just give you enough to keep you dependent on them. They cannot really empower you. We have had a few celebrities who seem to have made it through that lifestyle. But when you come close, you realize they're very miserable. They just portray an image of happiness to deflect the truth so that they don't have to answer the ugly questions. I'm just saying, these young people think that's a way of living. It's not a way of living. And one of these days, we should take our cameras to the latter end of those who started like what they're doing, because it's not shown. Usually, if they fade out of the picture, they get diseases, they start breaking down for betraying themselves, for not building their life. They start living on anybody who can give them anything. They still sell that body. The precedent you set early in life becomes your pattern. If you sold your body instead of preparing your brain, you might have to sell that body every time. And the customers will reduce because you also the commodity is depreciating. The commodity that does not depreciate is your brain. Your body depreciates. So if you banked on your body, beauty or guy, you did muscles, did gym, then this Auntie Waharia likes you, and you have this, and you've been given some money. Over time, the muscles will reduce. Another guy will be younger. You won't be younger anymore. And now, you do not prepare your skills and your brain. Is to say it's a short-circuiting out of ignorance.
Right. So last year, during that particular speech by former President Ruto Kenyatta, he had mentioned that we should have a family that remains strong and respectful, a whole respectful kind of institution. So does that now mean that a single-parent family is not either of this strong, respected institution? Kawira.
In this case, we need to just do a lot of psychoeducation on parenthood. Premarital counseling needs to be promoted more, because at the end of it all, as an individual, I don't want to be solo. I need a partner. Mm-hmm. I need to raise that child with, I don't have to look for my father. Maybe I was also brought up in a family that was not functional.
Okay.
So I don't need to yearn to look for someone who's not complete. So when we say that statement, remember, we also are being that socializing is our key structure in being Kenyans also. So there's no need to say we can do it strongly, independently.
I think he also meant, when we are getting children, let's think ahead.
True.
Let's stop despising where the nest that was meant for children, and then we are just enjoying ourselves, and the child happens to be even a control tool. The girl gets a child for you to hold your leg so that you can facilitate them. Okay. And women are sly. They notice your potential before you notice it. They can see you're going far and they get a child for you. Many big people have a baby mama somewhere because somebody saw their potential because before they knew it themselves, and they thought they were just smashing. You know, college boys think they just smash. You know, they just put a girl in the box, and you think it's just a pack of wolves. You are a king in the making, hanging out with the wolves who are just eating anything carelessly because they have nothing to lose in the future. You are being groomed for a great life. What you're carrying is a resource. In fact, you're carrying a community. Our next president is you. Our next governor is you. Our next so many millions of lives are hanging on you, but you are going around behaving like wild dogs.
I love the fact that you bring that up because even the single moms watching us this morning, they're like, you'll probably now point fingers at single moms. What about the deadbeat dads?
Now, mating is controlled by females, both in the human and animal kingdom.
Consent.
Okay.
The female gives consent. I can desire her, but until she says yes, it won't happen. Of course, without force and rape and those other cases. I'm just giving you foundation that we are not giving the responsibility to the woman only. But we are saying, because the woman has more, her body takes a hit. Socially, she's slowed down. Hormonal upheaval. Just that process of carrying the pregnancy, God knew it will cost you more. So he put more authority on you, on when and with whom it will happen. I'm not saying just after you get a child, you should run. No. In fact, if it's a man you're running out there and you have a child out here, your conscience will never give you peace. And you'll never succeed. That child, every time they cry with the mother and they can't get food and you're enjoying yourself here, karma will follow you. I'm just saying, we are not pointing the mothers more, but we are saying today we have a trade where because men are willing to pay money for sex, or many of them look at their future. Some sly women are using that, you know, to arrest. And you've had there's a couple that plays, two actors who play the baby mama, the Icy Stevens, somebody, Nick White. They do it so well. Because they show you how far it can go with your life being thrown chaos every day. We're just saying there's some people who do that because they're not prepared to take the long route of preparing it, not financially. Yeah. They get a Stanley who looks like he has a life, and then they drop you so that every time you're feeding the child, you're also feeding them. And over the years, that's how they want to survive. We have that group, not all of them. As you said, some were in a committed marriage stable, just the man fled after money came. We should talk in another show why men change when money comes. One reason is because they have options now. They've never had options. Back then, only you could see them, only you could tolerate them, only you could wash them up. Now somebody else wants them because you've cleaned them up. Really just a betrayal after things get better. So we are saying, the idea is to say, don't just point on one finger, but just say, when the child comes, you're supposed to cooperate. And I know many men who cooperate. Good men are not loud. The bad men are given more media coverage. Media, please, can you do better? Take the cameras off to good guys.
We're definitely having this conversation, so better on this.
It's a step in the right direction.
One of these days, bring a single dad who is doing it, and you will see a different heart.
Yeah, interesting. Yes. And even as we mentioned that there's now, how can these parents manage the emotional and psychological side of it in bringing up these children, not only the mother, but also the father, because we see some bitterness that comes from a single parenthood, and it transitions to the child. How can these parents now balance this emotional and their psychological challenges that they do not transfer them to their children? Because
even as you also answer on this, the challenges that come with it. You'd find, for example, a single mom wants to take a child to a particular school. The school says, well, we cannot really admit you because you come from a single parent family. There are certain schools in this country that will have that. Some guys would probably have a name. The second name is probably Wanjiku, or you need some communities, having that particular kind of. These are definitely challenges. Yeah, I think one way as a single parent is to recover from whatever situation left you being a single parent. You lost what you were planned for. A lot of people, although there are people who say, let me just become, I don't want the burden of relationship, let me just get children. There are people who talk like that. But a lot of these people, majority, I can say over 9 out of 10, did not anticipate this situation. One, just heal. If you unpack the betrayal, if you recall what you had planned and what you've lost, and you grieve the hopes you had and release them. We do this in psychologically safe spaces. Sometimes you have to do psychological surgery, equivalent of, to really dig deep into how much pain, how much was touched in there. If you heal as a single dad, as a guy, you see how much you had poured your heart and you are kicked in the face and you are betrayed. If you heal, you come to be at peace and tell your children, you know what, this is what happened, but I'm okay now. I'm not in pain, guys. This is how life works. When you step here, learn from my experience. Don't reinvent the wheel. You don't need to be knocked again. I was knocked
worked for you. Don't go to the school of hard knocks, because many men are taking the school of hard knocks because they're too good at it. They pity the woman, they pity the girl. This kind of Stanley, you know Stanley, I can see him, he's a good guy. Good guys are seen early. And she identifies, this one does not know slyness. So she plays charming until she arrests you. Then she shows you the true colors of being a demon. So we are saying, you're supposed to heal first yourself, so that you can lead children in a balanced way with advice, warnings, not anger and projection. When you don't heal, you become angry, you react, you don't respond. When children do things, you calm yourself, then you hold a conversation. When they're throwing tantrums in the supermarket, you don't want to kick them, because even you have tantrums, only that you don't roll, you have more expressions. You discuss, now this is not how we do things. Next time, if you do that, I'll be leaving you at home. Your life has consequences. You know? So I'm saying the solution to parenthood as a single parent, heal yourself first, and then learn leadership. That thing we should talk about it next time, yes.
Learn leadership. Zulu,
and remember, responsibility.
Okay, hold that thought there. I'm really curious on your point of view on the kind of psychological impact it really has, and even what we're really mentioning, the kind of school, the kind of challenges basically overall that it will really have, even for the child and even for the single parent, really. But I want us to cross over to Naivasha in Nakuru County and listen to one single parent there. What she really has to say. Our very own Willie Dennis Njiro, boots on ground there in Naivasha. Willie, good morning. How are you doing this particular morning? Can see definitely a bright, sunny morning in Naivasha. Tell us this particular topic on single parenthood. Is it really a crisis there?
Thank you very much, my colleagues Stanley and Limuki in our studios in Nairobi. Indeed, the situation is across the country. Remember, the first institution that God set aside for mankind is the family institution. But it has, over the years, faced numerous challenges. And right about now, with the current state of economy, with so much infidelity cutting across, it has become quite an issue, enormous issue across the citizenry. But not right here in Kenya only, but globally. Luckily, we have got two ladies who are going to be giving their insights in regard to exactly what their account is, perhaps in only what we should know. And we had invited more and in our subsequent hour. But those who have already availed themselves are here. They will be telling us their names and bringing us up to speed in what we want to hear. Karibia sana, tuko live TV 47 na unieleze majina yako na unieleze hali iko vipi.
Naitwa Naomi. Niko sawa sahi. Nafurahia kuwa live.
Wewe ni mmoja wa single mother?
Mimi ni mmoja, nalinga kuwa single.
Unaringa?
Nimeadapt.
Okay. Tueleze ilikuwaje, tutaongea na mwenzetu pia.
Ilikuja situation, inabidi mseparate. Unakaa, unajikuta ni separation ya kabisa. Unashughulikia, unaona haiwork. Unaadapt, unalisettle, unalistart.
Hebu tusikie kidogo, tutakuja kwako. Sister, jina lako, wewe pia ni single mom. Utueleze kidogo, alafu tutaanza kuchambua kidogo, tujue shida zile zinakumba kina mama ni gani.
Kwa majina naitwa Regina Ndonyo. Mimi ni single mother kwa miaka mingi. Na niseme kukuwa single mother si ati ni kupenda kwa mtu ama ni kujitakia. But sometimes inafika tu mahali una double to that situation ya kukuwa single na unasema tu maisha inaendelea. Yeah.
Haya, swali sasa linasonga kwa nyinyi wawili. Wakati mwingi nyumba inapoporomoka, ijapo Biblia pia inasema mwanamke mpumbavu anabomoa nyumba kwa mikono yake, mwanamke mwerevu anajenga nyumba yake. Na kando na hilo tamko la Biblia, mwanamke amelimbikiziwa kila lawama wakati ambapo nyumba zinaharibika, na ikizingatiwa kwamba sio wakati wote yeye ndiye anahusika. Na inasadikika kwamba wakati mwingi kina mama ndio wanang'ang'ana kushikilia nyumba kabla hatimaye haijaporomoka. Sijui una yapi kusema kuhusiana na hilo.
Hapo wacha niseme ni ukweli, wa mama ndio tunashikilia maboma sana sana. Na unapoona nyumba ikifika mahali na inabomoka, ile kazi mama amefanya, yani amefika mahali, amefika mwisho. Ukoona tu mama ameinua mikono amesema enough is enough. Ni ile hali yenye iko. maybe kuna hii gender based violence, vita za kila wakati, ama mzee ashughulikie mambo za nyumba, ama kuna mambo zingine zinatokea. Lakini sana sana mimi vile huu usema, hata venye sasa tuko single, si ati kuna mtu anatushikilia maboma zetu, si ndio tunashikilia, na tunaweza kusimama na watoto wetu na hadi kuwasomesha, kuwalisha na kuwafanyia mambo mingi. Sana sana nyumba ikibomoka na ukaona tu nyumba imefika mwisho, mama amefanya kazi na amefika mahali ameona enough is enough. Yeah.
Sister, kuhusiana na swala hilo, wewe unaweza sema nini? Swali langu hilo.
Ni ukweli tu. Tunajaribu kushikilia, lakini saa ingine especially kama uko town, hata financially unakuta ni wewe unafinyika tu. Na unajikuta una kazi, mzee hana kazi. So itabidi mtalipa nyumba za wenyewe na nini. So inafika mahali na separate, mtu anarudi kwao. Sababu kazi inaishanga na kazi inakosa.
Lakini wakati mwingine wanaume wanasema kuna kina mama wako na kiburi, wanalipo mishahara ya juu kuliko majamaa, alafu unakuta kwamba heshima kidogo inarudi chini, na kila mzee angependa kuheshimiwa na mkewe. Kumbuka ni masharti ya Mwenyezi Mungu kwamba submit to your husbands as thou the church does to Christ.
Ingine inakuaga kama nesha. Kama mtu ameumbwa sio kuheshimika, hawezi heshimika.
Manake
unajaribu kumheshimu, unajaribu kutii, lakini yeye tu ni kukaa. Amekaa tu.
Biblia inasema usimpende. Kupenda ni mume anaelezwa na Biblia, mpende mke wako. Lakini wewe hujaelezwa umpende, umeelezwa submit. Sasa unajua ukisubmit upendo inakuwa inaongezeka. Hapo napo.
Hapo ni ngumu, labda rafiki yangu ajibu hiyo.
Submit ni ngumu? Sister, Biblia inasema submit, naye mumeo akupende. Wewe umekuwa ukifanya hiyo?
Hiyo mara nyingine huwa inawezekana. Na ile kitu inafanya unaona mtu mwanamke amepata kazi nzuri, ako na mshahara kubwa, inafika mahali anakosa kuheshimu mume wake. Si ati hana sababu. Maybe wakati ule mume alikuwa na pesa, ama ule wakati mume alikuwa ndio anategemea kwa familia, na yeye alikuwa analeta kiburi kwa nyumba. Pesa yake anawapimia, ukivitisha kitu ni kama matharau ama ni kama matusi. Kwa hivyo ile wakati mama atafika mahali na yeye apate pesa yake, hata anakuwa na kiburi. Hiyo ndio sana inasababisha. Si ati wamama hatupendi kuheshimu wazee, tunapenda sana. Na kusubmit, okay fine. Mzee akikupenda, unajua sana kusubmit kwake. Na unaona hiyo bomo imesimama. Lakini wakati mume naye hana heshima na mke wake, hiyo ndio maana unaona wakati bibi amepata pesa mingi kuliko bwana, heshima inakosa kwa nyumba.
Tunaelezwa na producer wetu Lydia, muda wetu hauko nasi kwa sababu saa imesonga sana. Wito wako wa mwisho, sekunde chache tuna most chache alafu turudi Nairobi. What is your advice, last advice, shortly too?
My advice ni kwa single mothers, mtu ajipende, accept yourself the way you are, and be ready to face all ile maisha yote tu, kubali tu kupambana nayo, sababu utapata stigmatization kwa community, utapata negligence na mambo mingi sana. Kwa hivyo kujipenda ndio kitu ya kwanza, na upende mpaka watoto wako.
Asante sana kwa mwito wako. Your last advice, tunarudi Nairobi.
Nasema watu wafanye kazi. Ukijikuta uko single, work hard, tafuta pesa mingi, ndio ujimaintain na umaintain hata watoto wako. Hiyo tu, work hard, tafuta pesa.
Shida ni pesa ama ni mume?
Sahi, unajua kuna hata mahali unafikaga unajikuta shida sasa ni pesa.
Asante sana kwa muda wako. That is it, Stanley. There you heard it from two single ladies right here in Naivasha who are testifying to what the situation is as in their life and what is affecting them. Remember, Stanley, you and me were put here by God, and out of loneliness, these ladies were made for us. This is very biblical, no man-made. But out of it now, things have gone haywire and the situation is as is. Umesikia pale tunaelezwa ujipende. Some others are saying penda watoto wako. But the Bible is very clear. Until 60 years, even the one who is bereaved, a widow, must not call herself a widow, because she's at that gap where you can easily get married. And actually separating from your husband is just separation. And the Bible condemns those separations. it is quite a heated debate and topic right here in Naivasha, and perhaps maybe if we get more time granted by Lydia, maybe we could have more insight, sit down and discuss the issue in lengthy, and quite an interesting topic there, you see. I take it back to you in studios. Limuki, back to you, and Stanley.
Right, thank you for that, Willie Dennis Njiru. Quite interesting sentiments there from Naivasha. Asante sana, Willie. Flora, uko single?
Hapana. Oh, ni wimbo naimba single, sijui kama niko. Hiyo niko.
Zulu and Kawira, definitely quite interesting. I'll be picking your minds on the same from what the ladies were saying in Naivasha. But before that particular link, Kawira, the whole discussion that we were having previously on the challenges that either the single parent or even the child might really face in the course of life, maybe being stigmatized in a church, even some different church sects, and really saying, well, you can't really join our organization because we love you really, by the way. Mama nani, tunakupenda, lakini tunaona una mzee. So, itabidi ukae nje kidogo. Or maybe in a school, they'd probably tell you during the whole enrollment, well, because of our whole setup as a school, you can't really join this particular school. This is just a tip of the iceberg of the kind of challenges that the parent and also the child can really face. Speak on that, even as from where you sit.
Yeah. So in that case, most of the time, it's not all about even churches or environmental factors.
Yeah.
Education. So you'll find these children having school avoidance, anxiety. And most cases, actually, from 2021, statistically, there's more major depression disorder among our teenage and early childhood children. There's also general anxiety, social avoidance. So they isolate themselves because there's hopelessness. There's also helplessness in the way they interact with others.
Okay.
And also there's low self-esteem in most cases because they know they like something. Kwanza watoto wa siku hizi, you can't tell them. As you know, from the early age of 12, 2 years to 12 years, you can predict mtoto anaenda wapi.
Interesting. And when I was listening to those women there from Naivasha, what I could get is that if you're empowered as a woman, then you are able to raise your child. There's this radical feminism that has come up, and you feel like, I can raise this child alone. And also our people are listening to different people. Kuna watu wako na a certain person that they listen. I don't want to mention names. Men are listening to certain.
The people wake up to listen to Zulu.
Yes, there are people listening to Amerix, there are people listening to Kibe, there are people listening to other guys, and they get these advices that you can actually do this alone. So do you think radical feminism and on the other hand radical male chauvinism has led to increase in single parenthood?
Yeah, and do you know it boils down to looking for shelters, looking for refuge and hiding instead of reconciling with your past. Anytime you live on reaction mode, you are giving the one who hurt you a permanent presence in your life because you are hating, you are reacting on what they did. We say sometimes healing is a matter of personal pride. I'm offloading the pain you injured me with so that my life is not determined by you anymore. And we don't realize that. We continue bashing women, because of the one who hurt you. What if I went and unpacked the position I gave her in my life, how I was genuine and she was not, how I misread the red flags, how I got myself emotionally mixed with her until I couldn't read the red signal? Because when men fall in love and the woman says, I love you too, he starts thinking about sex. And he goes ahead of himself. He will never see the true character of that woman until they have a child, until they're cohabiting, until many years later. He means well. Many men who have been victimized because of that lack of understanding. So my advice would be, let's not give a label to people who are doing the right thing. Those women who have been interviewed, they said, I accepted my situation. By the way, let's remind parents that you better have a child who is single and raising her children or his children than being in depression and diseases telling them, stay because of children, stay because of children. You know, the most vocal lesbian in our country said, because she saw how the mom was beaten, abused, she said it is very weak being a woman, let me become Chris. I'm no longer again, I'm this, because I saw I don't want this, you know. Yeah. If you keep children under abuse, you confuse them, you hurt them. They leave that being their pain if they're not conscious enough to heal. So I'm just saying we should not say hate each other. We are not meant to compete. We are meant to complement each other. Marriage is so wonderful. It's the next thing after heaven. I tell you that a healthy marriage is as more heaven. You have somebody on your back every time. Somebody to look out for you when you lie asleep. For me, marriage is like two scouts crossing across a thick forest to the other side. And it's like we're traveling together. When we meet a heavy place, we lift each other. A deep place, we hold each other. When I'm lying down, you keep watch. I make the meal. I think marriage is so wonderful. We have just misrepresented it. It just requires the right parameters, a healthy people to be there, and commitment and character to be true to what you say and keep your word. That's the thing that is missing, that we don't keep our word. So my thing is to say, instead of going to one extreme, just heal, make peace with your past. Don't even raise your children when you're protesting against their mother. You're planting wrong things. Don't raise children. The moment you become a parent, you are a leader. Somebody's following you. Somebody's imitating you. Somebody's copying you. They're also breathing in your energy. If you don't bring your drinking party at home and your alcohol there and all late. I've heard boys who are sodomized by the women being brought there, and the father is unconscious. Girls are being raped, defiled by the men. The mother is bringing there, and you are living in reaction. And alcohol is more of a place you run to. So we are saying you should heal and don't be in reaction mode. Bitterness is too heavy.
So basically, men don't say fear women. So according to don't ever say that.
Don't live on fear. Fear is cowardice. That's even a wrong slogan to live on. Eh? How do you live like a coward?
We're taking a short break, Zulu and Kawira. When we come back, definitely talking even about now the whole other bit that really comes with this particular single parenthood, matters teenage pregnancies and every single bit about it. You can always be part of this conversation. Interact with us and chime in. TV47KE on Facebook, TV47 News on X, at Limuki_F, at Nyaringita_. Stick around.
Morning cafe, and this conversation is quite heated here. I'm enjoying it. Sasa, let me ask, I'll come to Zulu. There's very high rates of teenage pregnancies, early marriages. Are these things exacerbating the rates of single parenthood in
Yes,
the
they
country?
are. Because at that time when you're getting a child, when you're also a child, you don't understand life. We call them pre-25. Below, your brain matures biologically at 25. It's the last organ to grow, and it's very slow. But if you recall, the difference between 24 and 26 was like day and night. You woke up to have a voice, to know your preferences. You could not, you even got disgusted at the people you had a crush on, things you thought you needed.
I'm turning 25 in the next less than 30 days.
Very good. I can't wait.
I want to see the difference because I've been hearing Zulu say that for a very long time.
Yes.
I want to see there will be that difference.
And many of them who had booked when they were 22, they reached 28, realize I feel nothing. You're already in there. And they tell them society does not recognize I feel nothing. You can't even go to court and say I feel. You must create problems so that you can call them irreversible differences. So what I'm saying is you become a single parent if you get a child when you're that young because you did not know life, men, women, you are biologically immature, or you are just naive. Sometimes with a lot of support, you can marry when you're young and it works. Some people have dated in college, went on, you see them married, later they got away with it, but a larger majority is wasted because you woke up to yourself to realize it doesn't work, and although we have a child, we better co-parent. I better decide. Some of these boys who are sharpshooters in college, I call them sharpshooters because they make girls pregnant without sex. You just need to dance. And they deposit their seed in the neighborhood. It will direct itself. And you're pregnant. Nurses have delivered virgin girls. The woman delivering today is virgin. I will tell you the miracles they're performing. So you thought it's the Holy Spirit alone who does virgin birth. These sharpshooters in college, they're very fertile. You joke around, they'll make you. So what happens is, this person who was a child without even really serious conscious sex, or they were just that fresh-ass bash, they take them to a stupefying environment, to drunk them and use them. So they call it liver's bash or fresh-ass, something, anything, from something, just to make you unconscious and use you. You know, that's where they lose their innocence. You're inducted into a lifestyle of addictions. And this happens also as well to men. Men are so wounded, and because there's no space for men to confess their hurting, it looks like it's weakness, they collapse into alcohol, collapse into pornography. Pornography is just a pandemic, quiet, but a pandemic, causing erectile dysfunctions, a lot of things. And I hope you know, the number of times people are logging to pornographic sites is staggering. If you're told the number, you can't even picture it in your head. Even kids are doing it. We are just saying it increases because you go to engage your reproductive system, because before you engage your navigation system, reproductive system is what gives birth biologically, but your navigation system is what plans your life. My advice to young people, I've even written a book called Dreams Before Dating. You dream, you imagine, you picture your life before you date. The feeling, yes?
As much as you put that rightfully in college, that happened. Now, years later, even for this lady, Kawira, in your expertise, this lady did this in college, but then years later, she has a kid. Maybe this kid is 5 years old, and she wants to get into marriage. She doesn't even remember who the dad is. I mean, honestly, yeah, she's probably, things happened that night. So now would you advise that she continues, just being the single mom, or engages now a different, someone else who is, now a stepfather into that particular marriage?
Oopsie babies. So this one, we're going to do our organization. Mm-hmm. As the way he was saying, we need to organize ourselves. Dream better. Oh, I learned, nilifanya mistake. Mm-hmm. Tuanze tena, turudi pale, tuandike mratiba mpya.
Tuanze fresh.
Fresh. Mm-hmm. How is my mental status right now? How is my economic status right now? My family stability with my parents. Tuanze hapo pia mimi. You need to be stable first. And not all about financially, but we're looking forward to our mental status. Mm-hmm. So I'm promoting mental health. Counseling, psychological evaluation, assessment, invest in that. You can just seek for pro bonos, and it's there, and it's affordable. Mm-hmm. Don't hesitate to ask and seek for help, but you need first to heal. Mm-hmm. Don't say, nishapona, niko na pesa. No, You need to accept it happened. Let's go back to the drawing board and create a new path for this child and you also.
Now, on this drawing board, you'd obviously name this child. So for now for the mom.
Yes.
Would you advise that they name the mom? Probably they know who the father is. Maybe the father accepted or maybe denied, but then they're not together. So should the mom name the child? What name should be given? In
my case, if you know we make decision quickly. So as that case study, you said 5 years. So in this stage, we're enrolling that child to school. So there's that need for that birth certificate. So in this case, if you're not healed, name her or him after your father. But if you've healed and you're better and you have that effective communication with the father, just name him. Name after him, after the father. It won't hurt.
So why not the mom? Maybe the mom just randomly I'd probably think of a name, for example, Nancy Njeri, for example. Not that I know any Nancy Njeri. Maybe now the 5-year-old is a boy, and now the boy is also called Njeri. Kuna shida hapo?
Nimekuja kuona kuna shida. Because most of the boys, in this case you're saying a boy, kutakuwa na ile ya kukasirika, defensive. When you have a stepfather later on in life, protective, mama yangu, violence, aggressive, those agitative behaviors arise. So it's just good to create a new route for this child. Yes, being cultural and our norm as Kenyans mostly.
And I hope by now Flora can confirm with you that getting a child when you're young is a catch-22. If you parent peacefully, it's a problem because that man is hovering in your life. And the next man wants to marry you does not want another man hovering in your life. And if you have a son and you have the baby daddy, now those are 2 men already. The one coming feels like he's wheel number 3. And although you don't have that kind of relationship, men have that, you know, the way bulls greet by fighting when they meet, they just don't touch my heart, don't come near and they fight. You know, that kind of feeling. So if you parent peacefully, at some point you should outgrow the co-parenting entanglement. Otherwise, you'll never get married. It can prolong that way because people are coming close, you're still conversing. They don't even come close to confirm what you're talking about with the ex. You can be innocently discussing the child. But most men, especially those who don't want baggage, they're saying, I was willing to excuse the fact that you are somewhere. But the fact that you are still with someone, I'm not there.
It's like you read my mind because I was coming there. How easy then is it to remarry now, marry a single mother or of a single father to get married again?
Yeah, and if you have a daughter, it's easier because daughters adopt to the coming man quickly. Sure. Boys go to look for their roots.
Yes.
The one who asked for naming, remember how men are socialized and culturally. Our name, we want to find who is our blood. I appreciate my stepdad and I still be very good friends with him. But Obama, doing very well in this, still goes look for his roots. What is the name of my roots? It's important that we understand that after you get a child, you're going to need another school of thought. And that's why you should become a learner. Once you become a parent, whether you're married or not married, buy books about the dynamics ahead of you. Because if I've been advising, if you want, most of these men, the young group is night runners. Call them night runners because they disappear into the night. Don't chase him. Be happy that just carry the financial burden so that you can also have no drama and you can marry peacefully. When men want to marry a lady who was a child, or even a lady wants to marry a guy who was a child, the requirement has been individuation. He should have individuated that he's out of the chaos. There's no argument and strife going on. Even if the other person is toxic, this person has learned to put boundaries so that you can actually relate without hearing fireworks being sent your way from the other person. Sometimes you have to surrender the child, the other person to have more custody. If you have to do that, it's okay. So there's some adjustment you have to make. The thing is to say, deal with the situation as it is. But if you don't transit through healing to a peaceful place, nobody will marry you. They'll just come to add you another child. Because many people have realized that single mothers especially are low-hanging fruits. You can sleep with her easily if you just offer some emotional understanding. You know, I understand, I love your child, you connect to the kid, my kid loves you, he's asking for you, give me the phone, let me come here. they use this child to maneuver into your life. Yes. Or you're financially stuck, they throw you some support, you know. So you should heal until you return to celibacy. Stop sex before marriage. Otherwise, you'll be added a second child. When you have 2 children, you're no longer single. You have an ongoing family. When you have 1 child, you're single socially. Just single, yeah, whatever. But when you have 2 baby mamas out there, a sober woman doesn't want to deal with you. And she don't want to be called judgmental, but she won't talk to you. Thank you very much. I would rather not. You know, whether you call it judgmental or what, some of these people have preserved themselves and managed their life. They want a person who has traveled a similar journey. Even if I got a child myself at some point and I learned, and I stopped, I said the marriage package for sex, it's inside the marriage. You did not. You went ahead to add a second child. We are not in the same place. So it's to say, if you do not reform after becoming a single parent, you will never get the marriage, because marriage is a product of character, not biology or money. You must have a mindset and values and principles and self-respect that I can trust to bank my life with you. Sometimes I put a child apart. Welcome to Kando. Let me look, who am I dealing with? Are you self-respecting? Do you say no? Can you? Is your body just touchy-feely? And some people in media especially don't have wanashikana to be a picture show. So there's no boundary. I realize you're marketing show with your body. No, I don't want that. Thank you very much. Continue marketing. This is to say, you must reform your life if you want to finally get into an honorable institution that is stable and long-lasting.
Today, Zulu chose violence against us media personalities. Kawira, now for the whole, he was mentioning about the whole co-parenting and all. We were listening to also the ladies in Naivasha talking about one of them saying that ilifika mahali, separation happened and she chose, let me just stick around and just be a single parent. Does it really depend also on the age of a child? Even the mom or probably the dad looks and says, well, this child or the children are maybe above, let's say, the teen, so I can manage as a single mom.
Yeah, I've come to seeing that evidence, statistics. Actually, clinical is more about research.
Okay.
So in that case, from 10 years, we have found that stable families with single parenthood is there with above 10 years. Because hapo umeepuka vitu mob sana. Umeona tantrums zote za mtoto. But in this case, it's possible to manage that child easily compared to early childhood.
So just below 10 years?
Yes. And this case, from 2 years, even 2 years is earlier. Even 6 months, these children know how to record. They're recording everything. Remember, we are passing our genes to them during breastfeeding, and also they're observant. So during this time, the child, we don't advise people to rush into dating. Kwanza, when you have below 2 years, don't rush. Early childhood, 5 years, don't rush to date.
Okay.
Heal fast, create that bond with that child. And that's why we use parenting training skills. We impact skills and techniques on how to better your parenting. Emotional bond is very good.
In your, because when you're starting, both of you were in agreement that single parenthood is a little tricky. But would you say for someone who has a child above 10 years old, it's possible?
Yes.
And I would also say not only 10, and I think her research showed that because of the passage of time, a lot of people have adapted. As she's saying, people have adapted to that situation. But I would also say, as she has mentioned, don't marry a person who has a child who is 2 years and below, because they're still in the baby blues. They're still in the drama of whatever happened. They have not found their new identity. They have not settled to being a father. They have not settled being present, talking that language, learning how to, just show up. Now you have a person to attend to who has an independent existence. They need you. Your love is their oxygen. They need to be validated by you. That part you have not settled in. If you start now creating something else here with this person, it's like you're just being a crutch, really, a bandage, really, to deal with you don't know who this person is.
So probably one of the questions you should be asking her is, mtoto kana miaka ngapi?
Yes.
3? Okay.
Very good. So, and also check their social media and how they're interacting. You can see whether they're just calling mama, twins, mama, this and all that. They have not recovered being Linda. Have you come back to be Flora, who you're just Mama Ryan?
And remember, responsibility changes to a woman.
Right.
Always end up party. Remember, stress. You have a toddler at home. You're partying, you're enjoying that moment. But remember, deep inside in your cognitive, you have responsibility. So it's going to weigh you down back to stress, acute stress, and depression, and bipolar.
As we wrap it up, one particular conversation that was also mentioned in that bit, then I get your closing remarks, the whole gender-based violence. Being a single parent basically, and in a single parent family, inafanya unaipuka GBV. I'll start with the Kawira. How is that possible? Is that true?
Kuepuka? As when you're a single parent, you're avoiding.
Well, yeah, they're no, because I mean you live alone, so there are not really chances of maybe the whole gender-based violence happening in the family setup.
It depends in this case. If it's a single dad, no. I think
because this person could visit and that happens.
And emotional abuse is there, psychological abuse, and even in, let's say, in both parents, even spiritual abuse is going to be there, and it's going to affect your mental health. So
I think to confirm what you guys are trying to say also is that it's better to leave the violent situation and be a single parent than to stay there saying I'm trying to persevere. We don't persevere abuse and disrespect. We persevere difficulties of life, finances, ill health. But as long as we are both committed and respectful to each other, now we can persevere the outside world. I don't persevere you putting me down, you ignoring me, you beating me up, you quarreling, insulting. No, that's not perseverance, that's abuse. So it's better, and we don't wait for the slap. Sometimes the slap of the mouth hurts more, even than the slap of the hand. So we are saying it's better to be a single parent than to be suffering in marriage. Because you are hurting both yourself and those children.
All right.
Yes. Great. Final shots, Kawira, in less than a minute.
Let's embrace mental health. Let's not avoid asking for questions. And marriage is there to help us parent. Remember, when you're okay, he's okay, I'm able to reflect this happiness to this child. So a happy marriage, a happy child throughout. So when I'm a happy mom who's also embracing mental health and I'm aware of my situation, I'm a happy dad, it's going to reflect being a single dad or single mom.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
Just to say, let's not stigmatize, and I recommend churches to have groups where we just support single parents.
Yeah.
Let there be not this just like we are suppressing it. And also, when you have friends who have had to walk out of a situation with their children, don't ask them, what about the children? Will you be content? Don't not support them. If you are a true friend, tell them, I want you alive. I would rather you divorced than you died. I want you to be alive and healthy. I don't want to see you suffering and collapsing so that you can say you are holding marriage. No. we are your guys like us boys when you talk. That's what we say. Let's be real, man. Is this working? If it's not working, boy, we want you healthy. We want you happy. We don't want you missing in action everywhere because you are suffering. So we have those discussions in my platforms, Benjamin Zulu Global. People can always follow, and we do that more. Yeah.
Amazing. Right. Thank you so much for creating time, Kawira Micheni, as well as Benjamin Zulu. It's great having this conversation.
Most definitely.
Definitely hope we have.
I've learned a lot, by the way. Gentlemen, some tips there. 3 years, sawa. Below there, wait kidogo, 1 whole year. And other bits, if you've missed this particular conversation, check out the whole YouTube page, TV47 Kenya, and check out all this particular conversation. But right about now getting into the county diary in Taita Taveta, our very own Julius Mariki is just having and getting the sentiments from residents there concerning the whole cabinet reshuffle, also basing on our question of the day this particular morning. Julius, good morning. What are the residents there saying on this particular issue?
Well, thank you very much from studio here in Taita Taveta. It's a very good morning. We have already started witnessing rains across the county, and this morning we woke up already. It's sunny, but already we had some rains overnight. And with me today, I'll be joined by one Sadiki Ridhiwani. We'll be sharing with us some of the agenda 17. So there's something they're calling SDG 17. So he'll be telling us more about it. But before that, there have been reshuffles by the cabinet, or cabinet secretaries have been reshuffled by the president. And today I'll be hearing from him what is his say Karibu Bwana Sadiki Ridhiwani. Welcome to TV47. Maybe as we start, what is your view or your take from the President William Ruto's reshuffles?
Thank you so much. My name is Ridhiwani Sadiki. I'm from Citizen Network for Rural Development. I mean, it's a very good morning, and hearing of the reshuffles by the President of the Cabinet, we feel that, yes, because of some few commotions, some few misunderstanding and what of it, but for me, the reshuffles are there because some of these guys have been incompetent in their dockets. And of course, for me, I also see it's a kind of stage management because if you look at the reshuffles, the way they have reshuffled, I'm not seeing any big difference. But because the cabinet secretaries did a performance contract, I mean, for me, I could advise the president to make sure each and every CS goes or runs across the performance contract. For me, that's what I can advise the president.
And do you feel now that you have described what you have described now, do you feel that there will be an easy delivery from the CSs?
Not really, not really. I mean, even if you are given a portfolio, it's for you to work across the board. And for me, I normally use the word design thinking approach. Application. If these are CSs, whatever the portfolio they have, if they work across the board and they think outside the box to help the Kenyan people, the Kenyan voters, I think for me everyone can perform much better. But if they'll be there because they have a salary and because they've been given that position, and of course the tendency of these guys thinking in terms of eating, it's not time to eat right now. It's time to work for the Kenyan people. Thank you.
Well, now, what's your message to the president now that he has done the reshuffles?
I think my message to the president is to push these guys to work across the performance contract. Look at the deliverables, give them timelines, because performance contract has a timeline. Yeah, everyone has to be accountable to the Kenyan people. So for me, the advice is let them follow the performance contract, and I think things will be much better. I think for me, I expect another reshuffle after 2017, after 2027, because if we keep on reshuffling, so there will be more mess than we are thinking. So everyone has to work across the performance contract based on the delivery or the deliverables given.
Well, thank you for your view on that. And now back to today's event here in Taita Taveta County, where you are talking about SDGs 17. What is it?
Thank you so much. Before I talk about the SDGs 17, I want to bring across the support coming by the SDG Kenya Forum, because the SDG Kenya Forum is a forum which is steadfast in terms of localization and mainstreaming of SDGs, not only in Kenya but across African region. So, I mean, in today's, we have an activity, we call it SDGs Community Dialogue, and we'll be dealing squarely in with the SDGs 17. Ideally, there are 17 SDGs. 169 targets and 231 indicators, and we are 7 years to the year 2030, and for me, whatever we are doing, we are still doing software work, that is doing awareness and sensitization under localization and mainstreaming of the SDGs. So in between the decade of action on SDGs, we really need now to move very fast towards hardware. That means if you are talking about SDG 17, SDG 17 is all about partnership. And when we talk about partnership, is bringing all the stakeholders together, the private sector, the academia, the media, the government, both national and county, and also the community, so that they can pull together, they can collaborate, network, bring their heads together, bring their resources together, so that they can now move from the software part to the hardware part. And when I talk about hardware part, I'm talking about if you are dealing with zero poverty. That means we are reducing the poverty level and the community. Then we need to say, if we are doing food security, let there be production, let there be processing, and let there be marketing. Let the smallholder farmer put money in their pockets. That's all about hardware. So it's all about that partnership. When resources are brought together, programs and projects are designed very well, then they will give us a very good output in terms of changing the lives, or rather transforming the lives of the people before 2030.
So when you talk about SDGs, someone is struggling to understand, what are these SDG? What is it? What does it mean?
Thank you so much. SDG is simply Sustainable Development Goals Agenda 2030. And this is a development framework. And this development framework is a kind of a catalyzer or a reminder for both private sector, civil society, government, the community, in terms of looking at their plans, their development plans. They are just reminded, so that's why we do mainstreaming, so that they are reminded on what they need to do, their targets and their indicators, and the kind of output they are looking at when they are doing programs and projects. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. And as you have heard, that is Sadiki Ridhiwani talking to us this morning. A very beautiful morning here in Taita Taveta. And I'll be taking back to you. I'm Julius Mariki Mwakivo.
Many thanks for that, Julius Mariki in Mwatate, Taita Taveta County. From Taita Taveta County, on the other side, taking more updates from different parts of the country. Remember, our question of the day this particular morning: do you think the latest cabinet reshuffle will help the government perform better? Keep talking to us. Quite a number of your feedback on Facebook and also on Twitter. We'll be taking a look at that after this particular short break.
Every day, Kenyans face countless hurdles. Families struggling to put food on the table, children fighting malnutrition, and communities in need of quality healthcare. In a world where a small gesture can have an enormous impact, TV and Radio 47
residents from different parts concerning the whole reshuffle of the cabinet, the first ever. And we go to Nyahururu where Laban Muhinda is. Laban, habari za asubuhi hivi leo. What the residents there saying?
Naam, shukran sana mwenzangu kwenye studio kuu za Nairobi na kupata kwa njia mbashara zaidi nikiwa hapa mjini Nyahururu, huku ni kaunti ya Laikipia. Na ikiwa imepita zaidi ya mwaka moja tangia serikali kuu pamoja na serikali za kaunti tangia ziweze kupata uongozi wa nchi, ningependa kupata maoni kutoka kwa wakazi wa kaunti hii. Je, wameridhika na jinsi serikali ya kaunti ya Laikipia inayoongozwa na gavana Joshua Irungu inavyoendeleza kazi au shughuli zake? Nami hapa ningependa kupata maoni ya mtu mmoja kuhusiana na jambo hili. Je, kulingana na yeye serikali ya kaunti ya Laikipia imeweza kutekeleza majukumu yake kulingana na matarajio yake? Utaanza kwa jina yako.
Kwa majina naitwa Duncan Mwangi kutoka Sarama Ward. Sisi ile kitu tunataka kusema kama wakaaji wa Laikipia, tunasema kuna mahali haiendi vizuri, lakini mahali imeenda vizuri. Tunasema tunashukuru governor ni kuleta county upande ya Lomuruti na tunamshukuru sana, lakini tunamwambia upande wa salama, kitu ya kwanza ni maji. Hapa Laikipia tuko na shida ya maji, tuko na shida ya barabara, lakini ile mazuri yamefanya tunashukuru, kwa sababu hapa kwa hospitali ametuletea mambo ya watu kuenda dialysis hapa general yetu ya Nyahururu, na tunashukuru tena kuleta county Lomuruti na tunasema ni asanti, lakini tunamwambia mahali haiendi vizuri Mr. Governor, na tunakuheshimu sana, utengeneze mambo ilivyo iko, utuangalilie barabara ile sio mzuri, utuangalilie town yetu ya Nyahururu, uangalie town ya Lomuruti, zote uziangalilie, lakini tunakuambia hongera kwa ile kazi kidogo umefanya kwa muda wa mwaka mmoja, na ile ligase yako utawasha ni kwamba utakuwa na county itakuwa Lomuruti. Sisi watu wa Laikipia tunakurudishia shukrani sana, na tunasema ni asante kwa usaidizi wako, na CEO wa finance ambaye ni Mwanagume, tunamshukuru sana na yeye kukushikilia, na tunajua ofisi za hizi mehama za finance iko Lomuruti na tunagojea maendeleo mengine mingi na tunakushukuru, lakini governor, angalia wafanyikazi wako ambaye umewatuma wafanye kazi. Barabara za Laikipia sio mzuri, maji hatuna, watu kama watu wa salama hatuna maji, hatuna sosiani, ukienda watu wanalia maji, ukienda barabara hakuna, ukienda huko Tegethi Ward hakuna barabara. Tunakuomba tu angalia hiyo mambo kwa unyenyekevu wetu, na tunakushukuru mahali umetusaidia. Asante sana.
Naam, shukrani sana. Wacha pia vile niweze kupata maoni ya mkazi mwingine kuhusiana na swala hili. Utaanza kwa jina kisha baadaye tuambie maoni yako ni yapi kuhusiana na swala hili.
Kwa majina naitwa Josephat Wagura kutoka Laikipia. Mimi ningesema mambo machache na madogo kuhusu gavana wetu Joshua Irungu, kwa sababu yale ametufanyia sisi kama wana bodaboda. Tunarudisha shukrani kwake kwa sababu siku hizi sisi wana bodaboda hatulipi tiketi ya kanso. Hiyo ni kitu moja sisi tunafurahia sana, kwa sababu zamani tulikuwa tunakibiswa hapa na pale, lakini wakati huu hatulipi hiyo kodi, wanatulipia. Tunashukuru Joshua Irungu. Hii kitu ingine, hii Nyahururu ametuletea dialysis karibu na sisi. Hii hospitali ya Nyahururu iko na dialysis sasa. Tunamshukuru pia. Tena kuna mahali pengine kama huyo mkaaji wa Salama amesema hakuna maji. Tungeomba tu Joshua Irungu uwawekee maji na uwatengeneze hiyo barabara ya kutoka Mairoinya, na hata hapa town kuna sehemu zingine tunataka sisi wana bodaboda tunauliza Joshua Irungu, kwa sababu siku hizi hatukuonagi sana. Tunakuomba ukuje karibu na sisi ndio ututengeneze ile njia ya kwenda kaburi ile county cemetery. Hiyo barabara ni mbaya sana. Hiyo tungekuuliza Joshua Irungu. Hiyo Laikipia cemetery huwa inaleta pesa nyingi kwa county. Tungekuuliza bwana governor, hiyo barabara tutengenezewe. Kuna mengi mazuri umefanya, lakini hiyo barabara tunaomba tu ututengenezee, kwa sababu hiyo barabara huwa inaharibika sana. Tena hapa Joshua Irungu Nyahururu, tungeomba wakazi wa Nyahururu, sisi hatukuonangi. Tungeomba wakati mwingine unakuja unafanya barasa na sisi, tunakwambia mahitaji yetu na mahali tumeenda vibaya, lakini sasa wewe tunaonaga tu ukipita. Tungekuomba ukuje ukuwe na sisi ndio tuwe tunaongea na wewe. Sasa hayo machache ningeomba tu Joshua Irungu uendelee vizuri, kwa sababu hapa Nyahururu hatuna ubaya wa barabara. Barabara ni mzuri na tunashukuru kwa hayo maneno.
Naam, shukran sana, na kama vile umesikia, hayo ndio maoni ya wakazi kutoka kaunti hii ya Laikipia, ambapo wengi wanasema kuwa miundo misingi katika kaunti hii iko katika hali duni. Na kutoka kwangu mie Laban Muhinda, nikiwa katika mji wa Nyahururu huku ni kaunti ya Laikipia, sina budi la kurejesha usukani kwako studio.
Asante sana Laban Muhinda in Nyahururu, Laikipia County. And from that particular county, just taking a look at what we were asking you this morning. This is after yesterday night's government and cabinet reshuffle, the first ever in the Kenya Kwanza government. Do you think the latest cabinet reshuffle will help the government perform better? On Facebook, Fred quoted a number of various and interesting comments, by the way. John Baraza JBK says the changes are inconsequential. Cornelius Kiprop, pardon me, yes, to enable those who are performing to uplift the ones which are poorly done. Well, somewhat of what really happens in a whole classroom kind of setup. The whole even kind of sitting positions, you know, somewhat like that. So according to Cornelius, how you even elevating one and demoting one so that you can have a balance. Oh, yes. Brian Otieno asks, how this government is just a total failure already? And, okay, that... okay, Nathan, okay, that's a different
one here from
yeah.
on X, and at Ja Owini, he says, when a striker is shooting blanks, do you bench them or do you play them as a goalkeeper in the same team? Good question. He answered the question with a question.
I hope he's not talking about our forsaken Manu. I've even forgotten his name.
If the goalkeeper Onana is not playing well, do you put him as a striker?
Other interesting comments from you, dear viewer. Troy Shege says some members should have been fired and not taken to other dockets. And Faustin, how now? All those people were rewarded, not qualified. And Victor Bishage says, no, Ruto is the poorest when it comes to governance, but good in politics, since his politics is about knowing all and fitina. And Wesley Chipkisa says, which government? Hakuna serikali hapa. That's well, others says Richard Njenga, nope. Lona Jeb says maybe, and Robert Kirui says no. There's just but a few of the comments here on Facebook.
Let me continue sampling some on X. Abednego Faulu says the government was performing better even before. After the reshuffle, it will perform much better. Okay. Someone else says we already have the answer to this question. Non-shareholder at Mutugian_K says there was no reshuffle there, just a distraction to keep newsrooms busy. At Makwats05, he says sackings would have done better, but the reshuffle is like removing your money from the right pocket and putting it in the left. DevBest07 says same monkeys transfer to different forests. Marindani at Mar_Kibenti says, I think it will reorganize the looting and incompetence. I mean, they're still the same politicians. Sengeli Brian says, changing offices won't make a chicken lay duck eggs. Incompetence stays put. And King Ncho Private says, no, reshuffling doesn't make them competent. The feedback we're getting on our question today.
Oh, yes. Similar on still on X. Wanzala says no. Kipkemoi Kevin Keshe says garbage in, garbage out. Mark Tonje, or the MC Tonje, says we need replacement and not reshuffle. Some are quite incompetent and unqualified for their particular positions. And Fred, it's interesting to see, even for this particular morning, for example, Rebecca Mieno, now the new Cabinet Secretary of Trade and Investments, she's already even changed her, X profile. And now it's going to be interesting to see this particular morning how for the 8, which particular offices they're going to be heading to, even for the staff, how they're going to be having their bosses, and how this will really be playing along, even for this new week.
I remember the appointments or changes take effect immediately. So as a requirement, you're supposed to report to your new designation.
Yes.
That means you exit. Of course, they'll be given some time to collect their few belongings from the office they've been occupying. But there'll also be that usual handover between one cabinet secretary and another one. The good thing is that none of them has left the cabinet, so no one has been fired yet. All of them are still CSs, so it will be a cordial exchange between one office and the other. But definitely, we'll definitely continue talking about it.
Oh yes, and even the kind of implications it has for specific ministries. One particular cabinet secretary had put in their own agendas, their own, scorecard so far, what they're going to be doing for the next maybe 100 days from now. This will definitely be altered with a new person on board.
I think especially the CS Moses Kuria, who's been opening up and launching these industrial parks all over the country.
Oh, yes.
And now he's been given a different job, a public service and performance contracting, which means basically he'll be tied down to Nairobi. There's not much movement in that ministry.
And that even raises the whole question of, will Rebecca Miano continue launching the same? Because this particular morning, Kuria was supposed to launch an aggregation park in Garissa. The governor.
He may continue and go ahead and launch it because he was lined up to do so. But you may find that probably the new CS may accompany him to the same event.
Then the big question lies, will she continue
yes, as a requirement, because this government projects are not tied to one CS. Usually they're discussed at cabinet level, and they're PSs in the same ministry and other government officers who've been working on the same projects. So simply because you've changed the CS, it does not mean that those projects stop. So yes, you'll most likely see CS Miano going around the country launching new projects. But then again, you see, and there's that whole debate on whether or not ministries are different. Of course, they are different. Some ministries involve a lot more traveling, a lot more resource allocation. Like, for example, the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. It will involve a lot of traveling, especially overseas, outside this country. Now, when you moved from that ministry to the Ministry of Tourism, the travel will still be there to some extent, but it will not be as frequent. So it involves a lot of changes as well. And then for the Prime Cabinet CS, right now it means, yes, he's been having quite some travel outside the country. That will have to increase tenfold because probably he'll be the principal representative for the president in most of this. Remember, the president has been very busy traveling outside the country, 35 trips in 1 year only.
And it's interesting also the fact that the communique of cutting down the non-essential travel came, and just days later, this particular cabinet reshuffle speaks volumes on its own.
Yes, the difference will only be that, especially for the major or the most senior members of the executive, that's the president, his deputy, the first lady was mentioned in that as well, and the prime cabinet secretary. For them, travel has not been stopped. The only thing that was going to change was that the delegations accompanying them were to be reduced by 50%.
50%, yeah.
Who has been calculating how many people have been accompanying the president or prime cabinet secretary? So even if you say 50%, 50% of what?
Yeah.
Yes. Has he been traveling with 100 people? So you reduce it to 50.
50, yeah.
Had he been traveling with 10 people, so you reduce them to 5. So by saying 50% without giving a specific number of the people to accompany them may not really be that consequential.
Interesting turn of events this particular week, a whole bit. But as we wrap up, who's your favorite ever teacher? That one teacher that you'll always remember and say, kudos to you.
I've got so many teachers.
That one.
So many teachers. The one I remember, my teacher in nursery school. We didn't call them ECD. This was back in the 80s. So it was nursery school. There was baby class and then top class. And my top class teacher was called Mrs. Benson. And I remember her up until today. Mrs. Benson, yes. And then my class 1 teacher, Mrs. Kipsang. At Moi Primary School, Nakuru.
Interesting. All of female kind of teachers, really.
Most of my teachers were female.
Yes. I remember mine has to be my French teacher back in high school, Madame Rose. Salute to her.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Interesting.
But we...
My director says he's saluting Mr. Dishon
Shiundu.
Shihundu. Which school was that? Or we shall not name the school for now. Interesting. You say it is the day?
World Teachers Day.
World Teachers Day.
Teachers
so to
Day.
all teachers out there,
yes.
Enjoy this day.
Oh yes, and we definitely salute you. But we definitely have to wrap it up.
Yes, it's on that note that we wrap up this edition of Morning Cafe. Thank you so much for keeping us company. Very interesting discussions today to do with the cabinet reshuffle. And of course, single parenthood.
Oh, yes.
Very insightful discussions as well. You can follow it up on social media. We have on YouTube. You can actually replay the whole interview. Some excerpts from those interviews there on X, TV47 News on X, and on Facebook as well, TV47 Kenya.
Oh, yes.
My name is President Ndimuli. Have a lovely morning. On behalf of our colleague also, Flora Limuki, who couldn't make it to the end of the show.
And even as we wrap up that particular, you mentioned it, and I really have to also take a look, 22047. Someone here says, being a single parent is a bit hard. We need more awareness on how to deal and adapt and move on. Another one quotes how he thought it was only Nigerian movies, but well, the partner became not responsible, and now he was forced, or she was forced to become a single parent at just 22. Asante sana for your feedback. Definitely can't sample all of this because of time, but asante sana. And on behalf of the entire team that made this particular production possible, have yourself a terrific Thursday, and see you tomorrow for some Furahi Day kind of vibes. Goodbye.